Hello there. Well, this here is going to be mounted in a little different way than I had described in my last video. It's going to be mounted in here, in this space here. This is 6.5 inches on the inside tall by 17.5 wide. I had drawn up a diagram. Of course, it's not to scale. Should have really drew it to scale. And I allowed extra room for the Varac. So my intention is to mount the Varac on the left-hand side and the 2 meters on the right-hand side, and when that Chinese meter comes in, it'll go up in this area. Then there'll be an outlet here for the output. Instead of making a box out of wood like I was going to do, plywood, we're going to make a frame with a 2x2 here, here, and here, which will come out flush with this. On the front of that will be a 1/4 inch Luan front panel. And then I'll paint it all black. A 1/4 inch Luan, similar to this Luan that I glued on the back here. So I can start putting this together and make all the cutouts necessary for what I've got here so far. But when it comes to the Chinese meter, I'll have to wait till that comes in. There's a length and width on the internet, but it's in metric, and so we'll wait till the meter comes in and I can measure it with a American Standard, I guess. So anyways, that's what we're going to do. So I've got the 2x2s out there on the bench, and I've also going to be digging up the piece of Luan to make the faceplate. Now, how I'm going to do this is, it's going to be a 3-sided frame. The bottom will not have a 2x2. And the Luan is going to be glued to the front of the 3-sided frame. And the whole thing, once it's assembled with the Varac and the meters and everything, will just go right in here, and I'll have probably a screw here and maybe over here that will mount the whole thing right in there. The only thing I have to make very sure of is the depth of this. From this back piece here on the Varac, it must not be touching the wall, to the front face of this. On the plywood, I will be cutting out the center hole for the shaft and 3 holes for the bolts. If these bolts aren't long enough, I can get longer ones. So this will be mounted to the plastic, the Luan up here like that, probably in this area, about 1 inch from the 2x4. Allow at least 1 inch all the way around, and it will not be touching the back wall. And then the outlet and the rest of it will be mounted the same way. I'll just use a hole saw for the meters. This will require a smaller hole saw than this one here. And it's easier for me, as I said, to work with wood than metal. Alright, what I'm doing here I'm going to be mounting the 3-sided frame, which is out of 2x2, which is 1.5 by 1.5 of course. What we're going to do is we're going to glue this, use small nails in here, and then after that's done, on the back side there'll be another piece of 2x3 here and one here. So this will be the complete unit, and then the Varac will fit in here and the meters and so forth. I can mount all that before that Chinese meter comes in. That's not a problem. Goes in, well, I'll show you. It'll go in as one complete unit held on by a screw on each end into the 2x4s on the vertical. Cut the length of the 2x2. I'm going to do that here. Now, the right way to do this is to get the table saw out, but I'm lazy today because I got so much junk in the damn shed, in the main shed, because I put everything from the, what was the, at that time, the Dorkel shed to make this electronic workshop, that I can't move around at all in the big shed. I can't at all, so it would take me a long time to get that table saw out. So we are not going to do that. Let me see now. I gotta set this depth here. Set this depth down. Way. Do a neater job if I had a table saw for it, but we'll make do. I have to hand saw that. I'm using a trim saw here, and this don't cut 1.5 inches all the way in. My big skill saw is buried in the back of the shed. Now we'll trim that off camera. Alright, what gives it the strength is not so much these tiny little brads, but the glue. Okay, so now what I have to do here is to measure out, and that should be, I'm guessing, 6.5 inches. Okay. The face is 8, but we got 6.5 inches on the inside height. That's plus 17.5 this way. That's the inside. That's the working quarters of whatever's going to go in here. So we got to put a piece here, and we got to put a piece here, and we'll glue and tack them in, and this whole thing can go right into the wall like this. Your Varac will sit here, your amp meter and voltmeter, and outlet. I may just put in a single outlet, as I mentioned, because you only want to have one thing going anyways on a Varac or an isolation transformer. You're not supposed to have two different devices plugged into either one of those. So let's get onto it. We'll get this piece on here. We don't need to videotape everything. You've seen me hammer and nail before.
Do a little bit. I only got a few brads left, but I don't need very many of them. Using a lightweight hammer, it works out a lot better for this. It's not too bad. use the table saw, but like I say, it's such a challenge getting it out of the damn shed. That'd be okay. Looks like I got a little bit of a overhang here. It's very hard to cut these 2x2s. Not a table saw. And I'll just nail it while I got it good here. Instead of playing around with it. The idea of using these small brads rather than using screws is less noticeable once I paint this. You know how they're going to notice that on the finish. Shouldn't have done it over here. That's okay.
So this is how she'll be, and she'll go in like this with the control here and the meters here. Now I got to trim this a little bit. She's up too high, and I'll see what it looks like in the shed before I do anything more. And we got the wood rasp here. We can trim it out. The plywood cut pretty good, even though the blade on that saw is made for rough cuts. I think what I'm going to do here is to pre-drill. I'll do this off camera. Pre-drill here and put a finish nail or some kind of a nail down to end of each one of these here. We'll do that off camera. We'll come back when we're ready to show you how this is going to go into the opening. That's how it's going to go. Like that. And I can still plug things in here with no problem. So I didn't want it sticking out any more than it is. And this piece here is going to have to be trimmed off down at the end here. I'm going to have to trim that off with a wood rasp or something. I should really have done this on the table saw, but anyways, now you can see how much room I'm going to have. The Varac is going to go, it may go on the left, it may go on the right, that I don't know yet. Alright, and we got 1 meter here and 1 meter here. Okay, so we still got room for the fuse, the switch, and if I can find one, a pilot light, and an outlet, of course. So I made this long enough, there shouldn't be any problem. The only thing is the depth of this. I should be okay with that. We are 5 inches to the edge of the outlet strip. The outlet strip's 1.5 inches wide. The 2x4 is 3.5. So we're 5 inches. So we're actually 4 3/4 because you got to allow for the thickness of this, which actually may not make a difference. My math is correct here. Alright, so let's check the depth of this. I already did this, but I'll show you folks out there. Okay, the Varac is right up against this wall, which is not going to be when it's hooked up in here. So I've got just about 1.5 inches. In other words, the fascia of this Varac is just a hair over the edge of this. So when this is mounted in the thing, it'll be sitting about here. So I'm estimating probably close to 5/8 of an inch or so for the back end, so I can get my hand right in there. So that's not a problem. Now I gotta think. Where do I want my Varac? Do I want it in the middle? Do I want it on the end? Left or right? Big decisions, huh? The plate for this Varac is right here. So we center everything inside here, because this is our work area here. Same as this. This is our work area. 6.5 inches, 17.5 this way, and 5 inches deep because I added this. If I didn't add this and tried to put a piece of 1/4 inch plywood on here, the Varac would not fit in. It would be jammed up against the wall, and you don't want that. Alright. I could have dragged this out if I wanted to. I'm just too damn lazy. Here's Uncle Dorkle. He's got a small compressor in his gut. He's got a cat food container. We used to keep our dry food for Sammy, which he's been gone for about a month now, so I'm sure some coyote got him. So sadly, Sammy's not around anymore. So he's got that food bucket in his Balookies. I can't get him out, you know. I will eventually, but everything got shoved in this big time. I just had to. I wanted to sell this table saw with the dado blades and everything, but unless I have a yard sale, I'm not going to be able to do that. But anyways, this is what I got to deal with. I got a mountain of stuff to get at anything. My skill saws are way in the back. So I grabbed the things that are easy to get to, which is my little cutoff saw, which is out on the bench, my saber saw, and stuff like that. So that's what I have to do. Matter of fact, I got to crawl over this damn mess, and in the drawers I got to get my Harbor Freight hole saws, which I packed away over there, figuring I can get at it. But that was before I piled everything up here. Alright, I trimmed off this extra long end here, and now we got to start laying out for the meters and so forth, and I'm going to have to go hunting down my hole saws. I know where they are. I just got to go through a mountain of junk to get to it. So when I get the hole saws, we'll come back here. We got to do some careful placements here. Now we're working from this side because we don't want an error trying to get too close here. So we're keeping an inch from the top and bottom and the sides, wherever things go. Like I say, I don't know if I'm going to put the Varac in the middle or not. Guess it doesn't really matter. Here it is the next day, everybody. It took me 2 hours to try to find this in my shed. I gave up yesterday. The shed was so damn hot and stuffy. So here it is the next day, the next morning. I had to pull out everything in this corner. It's supposed to have been in that second drawer down where the hole saws and the wood bits are. It wasn't there. I had it tucked over here where this little case is right now. So I straightened up a little bit. You wouldn't know it, but I did straighten up a little bit. Got that projector up there. Anyways, I can continue on this project now. I wasted all that time yesterday. I could have had this thing pretty well made if I was able to locate the hole saws yesterday. I was just on the verge of going to Harbor Freight and buying another set. I went to my local hardware store. Nothing's cheap over there. $4.50 for a small can of dark gray paint, which I think will look good. It's latex, but that's fine for this particular project. I didn't really need oil base. All right, I'm ready. Okay, I went to my local hardware store, and rather than to fart around looking at my junk box, spending half the day trying to find the screws, I got some cup washers and some Phillips screws. And what they're going to do is, see, I'm in camera here, yeah. I drilled 3 holes. I'm going to have to make them bigger. I drilled 3 holes. Alright. Hopefully I'm in camera. If I'm not, I'm not, that's all. There's going to be a screw here, and a screw here. So there's going to be 3 screws holding this thing to the frame, you know, of the shed, the 2x4s. And what I got to do now is to get my hole saws and figure out, I think this is 2 3/4 inches. Get my Harbor Freight. This is only 1/4 inch Luan, should be easy. The Harbor Freight hole saws, they dull very, very quickly. The 4-inch one, which I won't be using, got pretty dull just cutting through 4 holes in 1/2-inch plywood. So Harbor Freight, when it comes to saw blades and stuff like that, is junk. But for this kind of work, and it's only going to be done basically one time, should be okay. I'll get you up a little higher in the world here so you can see what I'm doing here. And okay, this is the area I have to work on. So naturally everything has to be done from the inside, the measurements. So if I put the Varac in the center and I put 1 meter here, 1 meter here, I'm okay, but I'm going to have to allow enough room for the outlet, the fuse, and the power switch. So another option would be, it doesn't really matter whether the 2 meters are on one end here and the Varac is at the end or whatever. So what I got to do first is I got to get all the stuff that I'm going to have in here. Of course, I didn't get that meter from China yet. I probably won't get that for another week. And when that comes in, after I do all this cutting, I can take my Harbor Freight multi-function tool and cut the square hole out needed for the Chinese volt and amp meter, which is going to go in here too. That's the reason why I bought that. I ordered that before I knew I was getting this. But I like a digital readout because I like to be able to see it from a distance. These meters here, I have to get right on top of them to read them. Enough chatter, let's get going here.